zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Kiddo Cave. Waking up for a little bit of a later Thursday morning over here from a very cold but bright Helsinki, Finland. Bitcoin taking the northern path after initiating the bear trap that we spoke about yesterday. Holy fucking moly, gotta love it, man. Much more excitement being brought back into this market. I think it's just generally a happier place when things are going up rather than down. You can definitely tell by going around crypto Twitter, so to speak. Anyways, we have a lot to talk about today as Bitcoin, well, it did quite literally hit that northern path. So I do want to follow up on that. I'm actually getting hit for some trades right now, so I do want to maybe adjust this right here and make sure that everything's safe in Safu. But with regards to that, I want to first follow up on yesterday's analysis and jump right into it. But before that, I want to announce that I will be on Twitch later today at probably start time somewhere around 8 or 9 a.m. Eastern time. The link is in the description below. Feel free to join on in. It's been a lot of fun times. And with regards to that, anyone's free to join on in. On top of that, what else do I want to say? I want to say that what did we get out already? Is it done? Yes. There you go. Good Bitcoin. There we go. Anyways, what else do I want to say? Yeah, so the Krown trading application is now live, and we've been pushing updates to it the last couple of weeks, and we'll be pushing up more and more as time continues to go onwards and forwards. And we're looking for a fully released date, I suppose, later this month at the end of February, actually. So with all of that said, I want to jump now into the live scene, but I would like to wish you the best, and the happiest of the happiest. I want to make this quick because it's very important right now. And here we go. Not Bitcoin, but the Krown trading application, which by the way is 100% free and can be found at app.krowntrading.net, showing once again that we're seeing a rise in open interest. This is pretty fucking astonishing. We've seen it go up, I believe, from about 1.2 billion yesterday to now 1.4 billion. Off the top of my head, I don't believe I've seen it ever higher than this. Just off the top of my head, perhaps some obscure times there has been higher, but this is certainly an outlier and suggesting that we are going to see a major, massive move, which is going to line up with a lot of the other analysis. So I want this to be kept in the back of my mind's eye right now, because this is going to tie into everything. But Jesus Christ, man, almost 1.5 billion now. Is certainly nothing small and likely to produce some major, massive movements. Anyway, let's get into the actual Bitcoin chart right on over here. So yesterday we were speaking about this as a potential bear trap, or very likely a bear trap, just the way that Bitcoin didn't get that continuation of the downside and was seeing all the lower time frames starting to flatten out and turn back up again on all the momentum oscillators. And now we are seeing that, obviously take off to the upside. So to follow up on yesterday's analysis, I want to make sure that I'm clear in stating this, that the blue box of peace and prosperity on both sides, this most simplest way to trade right here. As long as Bitcoin was closing above this blue box right here, it was going to be a bear trap. And while I did say that it was probably going to oscillate between this guy and this guy, Bitcoin being a little bit more jumpy at the end of the day, did actually end up breaking the blue box territory to the upside, which does initiate, at least in the way that I look at things, a move back up towards this next horizontal resistance, which I actually have plotted out around 9850-ish region. Bitcoin seems to have found a little bit of resistance right below 9800. At the end of the day, is close enough. Yes, indeed it is. And I'm just coming back from our what was this? Yeah, our late September breakdown right on over here. So it's still very much relevant, and I do think that Bitcoin, is going to have a little bit of turbulence around there on the lower time frames here. After that target was essentially initiated to the upside, but ultimately, I don't really see this as a major area, and this is supposedly, or this is what I really want to focus on here, because realistically, keeping in mind that the open interest is so fucking high, it does imply that we're going to see a pretty face melting move relatively soon. When I say relatively soon, I mean like probably by end of week. In fact, we are going to see all the medium to higher time frame historical volatility percentiles get very, 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 very low here. In fact, the 12-hour is now kind of trying to expand. Let's see if we can actually get above the moving average on this baby. But tying it back into the earlier analysis of just looking at the open interest and looking at our kind of medium and higher time frame historical volatility percentiles, they're all in agreement with each other that we are going to be looking at a pretty big, massive move. And anytime that we've ever gotten this low on 12-hour historical volatility percentile, for example, it has been met with some pretty just shattering moves. We're talking about, in this, from this price point, maybe $500 plus. Last time that we saw this low was 1st of January, actually, which was leading out from this breakout to the upside all the way from about 6,900 to realistically like 84, 85. I mean, you could consider it still going here, really. The time before that was this breakdown right here, a meltdown from about 73 all the way to about 64, $1,000 move. The time before that was this guy right here, right around 85, leading up to this move all the way down to about 67, 68. I mean, these are pretty major turning points on the market. And then this guy right here, a nice, what was this, about almost $1,000 move to the upside. And this guy right here, obviously a couple $1,000 move to the downside in middle of September. So all of these do line up with each other, and I would say that Bitcoin looking more or less healthy here, likely going. If I had to put the probabilities on it, I would say to the upside. We'll look at the probability table later, but realistically, we are going to see momentum oscillators on the 12-hour also try to turn up. They are going to have a chance to cross the upside at the end of this next closure, which happens in about 4 or so hours, a little bit less than 4 hours right now. So I would say that if we do see this confirmed across the upside, very, 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 very likely we will officially test 98.50. And while, is there another short-term short-term time frame pullback from that region? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's actually kind of relevant that maybe we already saw that reaction right here, just got front ran a little bit below 9,800. The next major area of interest that I'd be looking at to the upside is actually in this blue box right here. The blue box is of peace and prosperity once again. And that's coming in right around 10.1 to about 10.3, a nice little zone from the last major breakdown coming in from middle of September. Now remember, we've been kind of postulating this move for quite some time now, granted off our higher time frame momentum oscillators, which had suggested a change of behavior well before price action did. So I kind of want to follow up on this here as well, just because I do think that is really, really important. And well, this is essentially the basis of my bullish bias, and my bullish bias that has been for like the last, I guess really like a year and a half, or sorry, not year and a half, month and a half now, but more recently this last few days. Anyways, last week and a half. But looking at weekly Stokes right here, we are getting back above that bearish control zone that has held down all bearish markets really since the genesis of Bitcoin. Not perfectly, but just for example, right here in 2018, once we break below the bearish control zone, we stay below during all the way from January 2018 to March 2019. That was the breakout from about 4,000 to, really 14,000. And then more recently, we broke back down below it in middle of September. That was the break below 10.3, which gave that initial bearish bias to the downside right there. And then breaking back above it, or breaking back above it confirmed as of last weekend's close. Actually, it was like 4 days now, 4 days ago now. That's kind of crazy to think about how time flies, and really starting to make its headwind into the neutral, and potentially even testing the bullish control zone as soon as next week. Not only that, but more importantly, we do see that weekly RSI breaking back above that critical region, this blue box territory that I've had in here for a very, like a couple of years now, actually, and while I do think that it will come back down and test this region at some point, which will likely be my next long-term buy, of course, it's not financial advice, not a financial advisor. This does provide that bullish bias as well, just because typically speaking, since the genesis of Bitcoin, anytime that weekly RSI is basing off this area, we're in bull market territory, really, and vice versa for the downside. We are in bear market territory. Same thing all the way from January to March right here, and more recently from September to literally as of last week right here, and then of course 2014 to 2015, or 2014 to 2015 right here, and then the bull market all the way from about late 2015 to 2018 right here. So again, as always, go back and verify this one yourselves. But that's what kind of gave that earlier bullish buy. So I just wanted to follow up on that. Of course, the moving averages really softening, or sorry, really what's the word that I'm looking for? Tying in all the loose ends, at least for myself, because I put so much weight on moving averages. And the big one here is just that yellow 21 exponential moving average, not making it any more complicated than it really needs to be. Anytime that Bitcoin's opening and closing weekly deltas above it, and the yellow 21 exponential moving average does have a positive slope alongside that, those are without fail, since the genesis of Bitcoin, your long-term upwards market's going all the way back on from over here, breaks it below right here, gets a negative slope, blah, 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 blah. Same thing right here, and then all the way up right on over here, and more recently during the second half of 2019, right? Well, once again, we are above it, and not only is the 21 exponential moving average having a positive slope, but so is the 10 simple. So that just kind of strengthens it a little bit more long term in the way that I look at it. And sort of the next sort of major piece of macro information I'll be looking for is across the upside of that red 10 moving average to the 21, and that is, well, going to look really, really good. More importantly, or just as important, Bitcoin's going to have a chance to once again revert officially the weekly macro trend by printing a higher high this week. And you do see that this one's coming in right around 95.50 from our October breakdown right here. So any sort of a weekly close above that region, and yes, we technically do have a reversal on the weekly for the first time since, well, middle of September, right? And anytime that we've seen a reversal on weekly trend, again, just laying it out a little bit further in time has been those major massive moves to the upside and the downside as well, by the same token. But those momentum oscillators that we just looked at, those kind of providing a little initial earlier buy. So that is the value in looking at them. They can tell you beforehand. It's not going to be as confidence inducing as always. Trend trumps all, essentially, and that's not a political reference, but you know what I mean. And we can take this one step further, because while I don't necessarily see it right here on spot price action, I mean, it is kind of there on spot price action, but I think it's just more in your face on CMEs. This is actually, and I very rarely will say something like this, this is an inverted head and shoulders right here. And what's more interesting to me about CMEs is that it's there, there's a point where I do believe it would be a little bit more, you can be a little more, or at least I could be a little bit more aggressive with getting bullish. And that is if we even just tick above our October 28th highs right here, which was 10,050. The reason why I think this works better on CMEs than spot price action is, one, I just think it's a more professional exchange. And then two, for whatever reason, on all spot price action, we have like this massive wick to the upside here. Even on like the US dollar exchanges like Stamp, you see this one's coming in at 10,350. We have GDAX coming in at 10,540. We have Finex coming in at the high of this guy, 10,480. They're all like widely spread, and Mixco coming in at 10,580 as well. Well, CMEs are a lot more reasonable, and while we do have this spike up higher here, it's coming in around $10,050, and I would say that any sort of a tick above there will likely initiate this and confirm this as an inverted head and shoulders, and really cement in that this weekly is going to close on a higher high above 95.50 when it matters most. So just another way to be a little bit more aggressive in this area. In the way that I look at it, of course, again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. There's no 100% guaranteed workouts for any given trade, granted that to begin with anyways, because it just can't be done. I mean, we're all just looking at the statistical probabilities of these edges potentially playing out, and this operating as an inverted head and shoulders gets a little more interesting, because we could say, or I guess I already have it in there, we could say that this would initiate a measure move pretty much back towards our early August highs right here. Now, this is where I need to go back into spot price action to kind of judge where that is, and what do you know? It's right here, right at this $11,500 to $12,000 area right here. That's also going to be synonymous with the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, which, by the way, is actually a bearish retracement from low to high of the last the last market cycle, going in from 2018 to 2019, or well, currently essentially. So that is a little bit of it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. It is a bearish retracement, so it would imply overall bearishness on the whole. But I'm curious, if I were to flip this around, what would it show? Would we have could we have the bullish retracement as well? And of course, the 0.5 is going to come in at the exact same area, because it's literally right smack dab in the middle. But how would everything else line up? And I would say that, well, we do have this 618 coming in where we are right now, and that is going to be on new weekly highs. So you know what, the bullish retracement is just as valid as the bearish retracement, coming from this standpoint. So I'll leave it at that. I would rather just go with trend actually here. Anyways, more importantly, this blue box territory, I do actually think, do we initiate a measure move towards that region longer term? Well, not only do we have the inverted head and shoulders measure move kind of pointed above there, but if we go over here to a fresh chart, let me just completely do a fresh one right here. We can do something like this. Do you want to use wicks? Do you want to use bodies? I'll use wicks and bodies, and then kind of show where they meet each other. But if you're looking at this as a falling channel, where's the measure move? It's actually pointed all the way up to about 11,700. Now, if I were to use, I don't know, let's say we go down to like a 3-day and we use bodies instead, it's going to be about the same anyways. Yeah, it's really not going to have a difference here. If you do use wicks, it's going to be a little bit lower. If you're looking at this as a falling wedge, I very rarely see falling wedges playing out. I do see that channels play out quite often. And for Bitcoin is notorious, according to my friend's quant firm's analysis of pattern trading, to not play out wedges of any sort. It does play out every once in a while, but it's literally like a less than 30% chance, especially when it's counter to the macro trend. In this case, it would not be counter to the macro trend, but we do see a higher degree of channels playing out. And in this case, the channel target pretty much synonymous with the inverted head and shoulders target that we do see on CMEs, also synonymous with just the major macro area from the weekly coming in right here. Not only that, but the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement. Not only that, but you're going to see volume profile coming in around this region as showing that we don't really have too much anywhere above this 11.5 pivot, 11.6 pivot. You can see that it really drastically drops off above this region. So that is indicative that it is going to be a market change behavior above that region. And you're going to see really, 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 really volatile price action, extremely likely. It's already pretty volatile down here. And look how thick we are on the nodes. This area up here is like several degrees lower than that, which is quite, quite enlightening, I suppose. Anyways, okay, cool. So we looked at all of that. We haven't really even spoke about the lower time frames right now. I suppose I'll go back down and kind of snap them up. And what do we see here? So I'm generally bullish on Bitcoin as long as we're closing 4-hour deltas above this blue box territory. You can see that we did come back down and retest it right here at about a 95.50-ish region. The retest was bought up fine, just kind of flagging out right now. So it looks overall fine, overall good. I would say that I would be, again, to kind of wrap it up right there, I'd be more or less bullish as long as we're above 95.50 pivot on a 4-hour delta closing basis. Even a 2-hour probably gets it. If I want to be a little bit more aggressive, I'd say 95.30, the low side of this spike down right here, that retest. As long as we hold up above there, just even on like a tick basis, it's more or less fine. And I would expect price action to just float its way onwards and upwards. Maybe not like in a straight line, as a lot of people's YouTube titles would have you believe, but perhaps over time, yes, things look more or less okay here. Not only that, but what else do I want to talk about? Now, if Bitcoin did break back down below this level, I would look for a move all the way back down to the low side of the range, probably like 9,300-ish region. Not that I'm really looking for that, but of course, as always, it's not just like Bitcoin just hears my analysis and does whatever the fuck I want. It's like I have to respond to Bitcoin, not Bitcoin respond to me, right? So that's the way they look at it. And of course, above 98.50, that's when I do think that Bitcoin makes its run into the 10,000s. 10.1 to 10.3 would be that targeted region, and then probably a nice short-term, maybe even medium-term top being put in there, and then we'll go into a little bit of a consolidation phase as well, which is what you should expect from a healthy asset. Anyways, so we spoke about the 12-hour. What about the daily? Daily got a damn good close. Daily got a damn good closing on new highs. 21 exponential moving average having a very positive slope. 10 simple obviously leading the way. Golden cross playing out. This is very lovely. Daily Stoch's going to be crossing back up again as well. They will get pretty mature within this region. I do think, I guess I already have that trend line in. Bitcoin will put in another test on this trend line, very, very likely, probably in the next week or two, which is going to be the next potential, not potential, but very likely the next consolidation area. But realistically, I don't really look at the daily Stochs as like a massively bearish thing, as like a lot of people are looking at. The way that the daily and higher time frame Stochs are starting to operate, and even the lower time frames by that measure as well, are starting to operate is very similar to what I'm used to in traditional markets. Now, we haven't really seen these signatures before because I think Bitcoin's just kind of an immature asset. It hasn't really been around for all that long. We're talking about an asset that's been around for around 10 years. And when you're trading traditional stocks, they've been around, in some cases like 30, 40, 50 years. Some of these companies have been around for fucking ages, man. But my point is that we're probably going to see a lot of these oscillators take on different meanings here. And I'd really be looking for my RSI to kind of tell me more about the general strength of trend rather than Stokes. Stokes is better for consolidation, price action, and looking at daily RSI is more or less healthy here. I'm sure people are already calling bearish divergence on this. This is just silliness. I've been getting like a million goddamn fucking Discord cunt fuck messages a day. Sorry, I'm going a little bit crazy right now. But you can see it kind of gets to me. Of Krown, there's bearish divergence on the daily. You better short. It's like. Thank you for letting me know, man. Appreciate that. But I would strongly disagree with your interpretations of divergence plays. This is continuation right now. Until you have a local high being put in, there's no divergence to ever be had ever. And I can literally say it with that degree of certainty. Now, of course, you can front run those decisions and you will be right every once in a while, but you'll also be shorting literally every leg of continuation ever, because you look at every play of divergence, which is naturally going to look like divergence on the RSI. But if price action is still just moving to the upside, there's no divergence there. You can't compare 2 points of price action that aren't relevant to each other. A high can be compared with a high, but a high cannot be compared with continuation as far as looking for divergence plays. Just literally doesn't even make sense. I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyways, sorry. I apologize for that little outburst right there. Not really, but it is kind of funny. Anyways, just a general PSA, I suppose. So looking at daily looking at daily RSI right here. More important to me, we have a change of behavior as we've been speaking about for the last 2 weeks now. Getting back above the essentially just the bullish control zone is a change of behavior. I mean, Bitcoin's been kicked out of it and rejected from it ever since June. Remember June, that time when Bitcoin was at $14,000. Right around here, it's been kicked off and rejected from the bullish control zone on all these spikes to the upside ever since and until the last couple of weeks. So just following up on that on this right here, I do think that that's more or less good and indicative that this one probably does take another leg up higher and has been rounding out my bullish buys for the last I don't know, segment of the market. We also do see potentially it's not necessarily in place just yet, but potentially an ascending triangle forming at this region as well. And yes, I do put actually a shit ton of weight on formations on RSI. In fact, I put more weight on some formations in RSI than I do on price action. Not all of them, but on a good amount actually. And right here, we do see something in the formation. And more importantly, you can look at this as a consolidation on the highs alongside the bullish control zone, which is kind of the same way in the way that I look at consolidations alongside a major moving average. It's typically doing that if it's going to be resilient and usually break out in that same direction. In this case would be to the upside. A really good example that we saw prior was the breakout from right here. Oh man, this one was beautiful. All the same people trying to short this region right around here, I would postulate as very, 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 very similar style, right? Anytime that you see price action consolidate like this alongside major moving averages, at the top, and really doesn't even print any lows. I mean, you can see all these wicks are rising on a weekly basis. That's fucking bullish. Just like over here, consolidating on lows, very, very bearish. And of course, people, still want to call divergence plays on those. Fair enough. Anyways, okay, cool. 3-day closed very, very nicely. The 3-day actually, and if you remember this maybe from Monday, the 3-day chart is just so clean here. On the 3-day chart, we had in one big what's it called, trend line. It was right here. Where did we close above yesterday? Right there. And look at this trend line, just beautiful. Simplicity at its finest. That was our breakdown point coming in from late September. That was our last major high on a weekly closing basis in late October, and that's what held up the whole consolidation in this ascending triangle coming in from June to September essentially. And what did Bitcoin do on the last 3 days? It closed above. Now, is a weekly more important than the 3-day? Yes, absolutely, because it's a higher time frame. Does a weekly promote more confidence in a trade like that? Yes, absolutely. Is a 3-day probably good enough in this situation? I would think so. Yes. Looking at all of the weekly oscillators, putting that in line with also lower time frames, and then also kind of bringing back into mind the focus of the open interest going to fucking astronomical levels right now. I mean, this is kind of what you expect to see, like Bitcoin or just any asset for that matter, taking out a major level, and now it has rocket fuel. I'd imagine that there's a lot of stops within this region. for all the people who are shorting, 9,000 to 9,300-ish region. So to me, this is quite nice, as all major moving averages push back into a bullish posturing, all the way up to a 3-day. I think that's the highest time frame that they're in a fully bullish posturing. Yeah, weekly's not there just yet. The 10 simple needs to get above, but it's gonna likely shoot up quite a bit there. So yeah, the 3-day is the highest one that I see right now. Officially speaking, but the weekly is going to have a chance in like the next 2 weeks, and of course that's in some ways more of a technicality, just because it's going to take longer. Naturally, it's more than 2 times a 3-day time frame, of course. Anyways, okay, cool. So with all of this in mind, I want to go back in over here and match up these ranges with the expected moves chart. Now, keep in mind the big areas for me right now, from like a 12-hour perspective, like coming into this next daily dildo close, would be 98.50 to the upside. That's the most, in the way that I look at it, preliminary resistance. And then realistically, I want to see the I want to see the first inhibition be somewhere above about 95.50 if this is to still maintain its bullish bias, like sooner rather than later, essentially. So that's what I'm kind of looking to see. I haven't looked at expected moves chart just yet, but we'll look at it together freshly. And what do we see here? Okay, very, very interesting. This is a 12-hour take, so this is going to get around the daily dildo close. And what do we see? We do see that the top side of the bottom side of the first inhibition is showing support right around 9,500, which we already pretty much have kind of retested. This is on stamp, of course. I was just looking at Mexico. Let's see if Mexico is any different. Yeah, still 9,500 as well. So a little bit lower than what I'm looking at. So it is within the bound, or sorry, it is within the realm of possibility that we actually do have a fake out here. But it's not as not as interesting to me as potentially the upside is. We do see the top side of the first inhibition coming in at 97.50ish region. So is it likely that we do hit 98.50 today? No, but we do see that more or less, if you were to just kind of cut this in the middle here, it'd really be, and I'm going to do some really bad mental math here, but probably about 40% chance that Bitcoin does close, hold on, it would be about 40% chance that we do close above that region. So that's pretty damn good. Looking at the daily would actually show a much bigger range, in fact, but it does get that 98.50 number to the upside. So I do think that if Bitcoin does tap 98.50, we will see a short term, maybe even medium term top being put in and trade a little bit of sideways, and then assuming that it's nice and healthy, I'd look for a move towards the 5-digit region. By the same token, bottom side of the first inhibition for the daily coming in right around 94.20, 94.50ish region. So that actually is a little bit more, a little bit less confidence inducing, just because 95.50 is the area that I look at for Bitcoin bulls to hold as long as they want to keep this momentum up and make that next move up to the next relevant resistance. Still, probabilities are on that side, to be fair, especially when we're looking at a 12-hour here after having a nice little perfect retest of this region, but does need to kind of does need to move sooner rather than later. So it would suggest that one, the probabilities are on the upside. Two, it's likely sooner rather than later, and three, not making this fucking rocket science here, and I could just literally end the video on this. Look at the 12-hour trend. Low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher high, or high, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, high. It's like, the fuck, we haven't really put in the high just yet, or at least this would not be, your traditional toppy-ish dildo formation. But to me, that likely constitutes a continuation. Again, this is all coming off the assumption that Bitcoin just doesn't break back down below 95.50 is where I really put a lot of importance on, or just wherever this spike low is right here that you saw late on the 5th of February. Okay, cool. Let's see. I've already been speaking for 30 minutes. How the fuck does that even happen? There's one more thing that I do want to point out. It is that Bitcoin is technically in an ascending broadening wedge, which actually typically does break out to the downside. But I just want to tie in a couple more things here. That's all. Now, this ascending broadening wedge, let me just draw it up a little bit more. I want to show that the top side of this resistance is going to be coming in at those levels that I have been looking at. And to be fair, an ascending broadening wedge typically does break out to the downside. Now we do see, where's 10.1 and 10.3? Yeah, that's the range that I'm really looking for right here. We do see that if we were to approach that region, sorry, let's actually use wicks in this case, just because it is a little bit more, it is a little bit less aggressive. There we go. We would see that yes, 10-1, 10-3 region, likely does come alongside a test of this region as well, and 98.50 actually not so much within the bounds of that. But do I have this right? Do I have this proper? Let's actually go. Sorry, that's a 4 hour. Let's go to a daily. Okay, there we go. That looks a lot more reasonable. Okay, cool. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that looks a lot more reasonable. Something like this is what we're looking at right here. And get our bottom side support. Okay, cool. Actually, this doesn't look all that sharp. You know what? I think I might just be straight up wrong on this one. Might be trying to do a little bit too much. It would imply that around middle of February, if we are going to make our way into the 5 digits, it probably happens in about a week or so. Just trying to gauge some times off this, but I don't know if that's really, I don't know if that's too speculative right now. I'm going to go for a little bit more of a conservative estimate as well. It would suggest a little bit more aggressive estimate, which suggests in a couple of days actually 5 digits. I'm going to leave this one on the drawing board. I don't think that this is right. I think that I'm getting a little bit excited over very, very little right there. Anyways, okay, cool. And we don't really have volume signature confirmation on this as a pattern. You know what? I think I am wrong on this one. I think I am going to be wrong on this one. If anything, it's something a little bit more like this. If I had to really make it work, but I don't even think that this would be enough to begin with. Let's see. Nah, I don't believe that this is it. But the volume signature would be okay for something like this. But you have to be honest with myself as like a technical analyst. Am I just drawing lines to make something work, or am I doing legitimate technical analysis? And I don't think I'm doing legitimate technical analysis right here. I think I'm just trying to see what I want to see, and in that case, I'll just have to kind of abandon that idea. Anyways, the main points are obviously the higher time frames, Bitcoin closing on new higher highs, Bitcoin just continuing the uptrend on higher time frames as well, and the 3-day, of course, as well, getting above that last critical level that's really shoveled Bitcoin down into the dumps over the last couple months, or last few months really. Anyways, let's go check out. I do want to spend a little bit more time on CMEs. I'm curious how they're doing right now. How's 12 hour looking? 12 hour Stokes going to be crossing back to the upside, very, very likely on this next tick. What about daily? Daily is in limbo, but again, I don't mind that on a daily. I actually really don't mind that on a daily. More importantly, look at this on the daily CMEs. CMEs did close on a higher high. Not just above our January 30 highs right here, but actually all the way above this October, which is the last weekly high. So I actually do put a lot of weight on that, and I would say, it's already been retested. It looks like to me, is there a little bit of more downside displeasure? Perhaps yes, but overall, as long as it's maintaining this area, I do think that it's more or less fine. Okay, cool. Anyways, remember yesterday was kind of like the key ingredient in kind of rounding out the bear trap call and calling Bitcoin likely to pop back up, was actually looking at the altcoins yesterday, just because most of them agreed that most of them agreed that they wanted to go up. And just to kind of follow up on this, Mr. Buterall, we didn't just hit our $201 target, we exceeded it quite a bit, and now it's kind of out of no man's land. This is actually a legitimate breakout right here. I do think that the next major relevant region is going to be somewhere around about 220, 225 region. And it's looking good right here. Again, daily Stokes looking more or less healthy, daily RSI looking more or less healthy, making new highs with price action. I really, really like that. Daily Stokes, what I would expect during a strong trending move. What about Mrs. Litecoin? What do we see here? Mrs. Litecoin, kind of the same thing. Did hit our $72.50 target. I do think that it's also in kind of breakout territory here as well, and I do believe that the next relevant region is going to be about 78 and a quarter to 80 bucks. Somewhere in this area right here. Actually, I'll just move the blue box here. There we go. And looking overall good, continuing to the uptrend to the upside. And if you couldn't be more redundant than that, then what else do you want in your life? And oh my God, looking at traditional marks right here. So I said yesterday that, so I said the last couple of days, while I actually was bearish into this region here coming into 320, and I actually did think that we were going to test this region again I would get bullish back above 327. That happened 2 days ago, and now we have new all-time highs. Crypto anarchists hate it, baby, but you know what? That's fucking powerful. That's so fucking powerful. Wow. Impressive. Very impressive. And again, traditional markets being strong has been traditionally good for Bitcoin. You know, I suppose I'll break this chart one more time just because, well, why the fuck not? Let's see, where is it? There it is. We're going to be looking at the correlation coefficient and R squared for traditional markets versus, no, not gold, but Bitcoin. Hold on. See, where is it? There we go. So traditional markets in the blue line chart, Bitcoin in the white line chart. If we bring up our oscillators here, which is what I want to focus on, we do see that the correlation coefficient between these two is not only very strong, it's at a 0.62, which is pretty up there. More importantly, the R squared, which is really what measures the efficacy of that. Correlation coefficient kind of gives you direction. R squared gives you the relevancy of the correlation coefficient essentially, and this is pretty much the highest that I've ever really seen Bitcoin have any correlation with any other asset, and that essentially means that strong traditional markets is strong for Bitcoin. And we do see over the macro as well that Bitcoin loves to essentially follow traditional markets to the upside. When they both correct, typically Bitcoin tops out a little bit sooner, corrects a little bit more dramatically. Usually it's called a crash. Traditional markets correct a little bit more lovingly, and then traditional markets have always made new highs before Bitcoin, usually as soon as 3 months and as late as like a year and a half. And I think that we're seeing kind of the same thing happen right here as well. With traditional markets making new highs for the last, ever since it initiated its correction, ever since September, essentially, Bitcoin now really starting to potentially follow. Anyways, let's go back on over here. And let's go check out our Forex pairs. Dollar yen, how are we looking at? We did hit, oh my God. Yeah, so we saw this move yesterday. I did say that this was going to initiate another target towards about 110-ish region. We pretty much hit it. So I don't know if it's I don't know if it still has juice here. It does look okay. I do think it's going to officially like test 110.25. I'd probably be looking for the first pass to be knocked back, but longer term, I think that this is starting to look better and better. This is a really good reaction here. I have to be bullish on this. Longer term, I think it probably hits like 112. Pound yen, kind of same thing, but not as strong. I would have a little bit more of a bullish bias on this one. Probably does test the top side of this range between 144 and 144.5. After that, I don't want nothing to do with that thing. Gold holding it up and actually holding right around the 21 yesterday, which I don't look at as all that bad. I think that's going to pop back up here as well. In fact, we do see hidden bullish divergence very, very likely forming. Any sort of a move back above 1562 and 43 cents or so and such, I would look for a continuation all the way up to about 1580-ish region. Really, that hidden bullish divergence is actually quite stark right here between this point and this point. So nice. What about euro dollar? Euro dollar hitting our 110. Oh my God, our 110 target again, and now going to exceed it. Do we have enough momentum to actually break it? I think so. Yes. Daily Stokes turning down as we approach major support, or major level. I wouldn't say it's major support anymore. It's been tested too many times. Daily RSI showing continuation as well, and overall, I'd still wait for it. I'd really like to see it like on a weekly, but all higher time frames are bearish here. This is just atrocious. I mean, have we even taken out last week's low? Almost. What's more damning is really the monthly. The monthly is just nasty, real nasty. It's a nasty girl. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for right there. We can go look at GBTC for a second. GBTC looks really good on the monthly, actually. GBTC making new highs as well. Not as interesting as the other charts, but okay, good, fine. Anyways, to wrap up this talk, I'll go back on over here to BitMexico and highlight the lower time frames. Realistically, I think that Bitcoin's just flagging out above a key critical point. Do we get another few tests down into like 95.50? I don't have a strong opinion on that, but I do think that as long as we're holding up above 95.50, the direction is up. 98.50 would be my next sort of short-term target-ish region. I do think that Bitcoin probably pulls back off that region, and then after a little bit of a short-term, maybe even medium-term consolidation, likely does make a leap towards 10.1, 10.3 region. Now, if Bitcoin did break 95.50 to the downside, I would look for a move ultimately down to about 9,300 and then probably bounce there, and then we'll come back and reassess. But that would suggest that something critically different has gone on, and I don't really think that that's what's going on here, but it's always important to talk about invalidation points, especially because we're so close to it right now. It's offered up more than a few trades within this region. So yeah, overall, it's the focus on the 3-day that actually provided that major change of behavior that is now confirmed by getting above our last major breakdown. So with all of that said, I'd like to take a moment to wish you well once again. I'll be back on Twitch later tonight playing some SO. If you'd like to join it in, feel free because it's really, really fun, and it'd be even more fun with friends. So until then, take care, and until next time.